Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I am Dr. Sana Jabeen, working as an assistant professor in Department of Botany, Division of Science and Technology, University of Education, Lahore. This is the 17th lecture of Techniques in Microbiology. This lecture is the continuation of previous lecture that was about the molecular approaches used to identify the microorganisms. In previous lecture, we studied about the molecular identification of microorganisms on the basis of nucleic acid base composition, nucleic acid hybridization, and nucleic acid sequencing. In this lecture, we will focus on genomic fingerprinting. It is a group of techniques that can also be used to classify microbes and help to determine the phylogenetic relationships among them. Unlike the molecular analysis so far we discussed, genomic fingerprinting does not involve nucleotide sequencing. In RFLP, that is restriction fragment length polymorphism, restriction endonucleases are used to recognize specific nucleotide sequences, making a pattern of DNA fragments, which is generated by the endonucleases cleavage. That is the formation of fragments by using the restriction endonuclease enzymes. So it is a direct representation of nucleotide sequence. Here you can see different steps that are involved in this technique. The first step is the DNA extraction. You can also use any amplified DNA, that is by using the thermal cycler to amplify the extracted DNA. So you have two options. You can directly use the extracted DNA, which can be extracted using different techniques. For example, you can use the manual method, maybe the Gardy's and Bruns CTAB method for the fungi, or you can also modify this procedure for bacteria and other microbes. You can also use commercially available kits as well. And then you may amplify this DNA, and then you can use the restriction enzymes to cut these DNAs, that is the directly extracted or the amplified DNA, into small fragments. So you will digest these DNA using restriction endonucleases. These are the enzymes that break the phosphodiester bond and cut the DNA into segments. Then you will perform gel electrophoresis, and after gel electrophoresis you will compare the bands. So here in this picture you can see how restriction enzyme works. This is a sequence of the nucleotide bases in a DNA fragment. You may call it the template DNA, and here GAATTC is the recognition site for EcoRI endonuclease. This is the specific type of endonuclease that act upon this specific DNA sequence. So it will recognize this sequence, and then it cut the phosphodiester bond present at the position between G and A nucleotide from 5' to 3' direction, as well as from 3' to 5' direction, and in reverse form. That is, here you can see it will read as AG, but if you read from 5' to 3', it is the same sequence as this. Here GAATTC, GAATTC. So These endonucleases are the enzymes that cleave the phosphodiester bond within a nucleotide chain and produce some sticky ends. Here you can see if it will cleave the DNA from here and from the other strand here, and then the hydrogen bonds from here breaks, and as a result a fragment is formed. And if this enzyme cut the DNA from another side, then more fragments are formed, and these fragments bear some hanging ends. These are called the sticky ends. So the cleavage catalyzed by the endonuclease EcoRI cuts the DNA to form the sticky ends. There are so many restriction endonucleases with different recognition sites. Here you can see the list of restriction endonucleases and their recognition sequences. These enzymes are extracted from the microbial sources, and the name of these enzymes mostly depend upon the name of their microbial source. Each of these enzyme has a specific recognition sequence that will be recognized by this enzyme, and then it will cut at specific points between the nucleotide bases, and it will break the phosphodiester bond between the specific nucleotide bases. So these are the specific enzymes that recognize these specific nucleotide sequences. So if we take an example of LUI, this enzyme will recognize AGCT, or you can read this sequence from 5' to 3' direction, AGCT. This is called the palindrome or an inverted reverse sequence. So this is the palindromic sequence, and these enzymes recognize the palindromic sequences. So when this enzyme will cut the DNA from between the G and C nucleotide bases, then as a result the blunt ends are formed. Or if we will take an example of EcoRI, and that is extracted from the E. coli. The natural source is E. coli, and this enzyme will cut the DNA from between GA, and then as a result it produces the sticky ends. So there are some enzymes that produce the blunt ends, and some enzymes produce the sticky ends. So these enzymes have specific recognition sequence and produce either blunt ends or sticky ends of the template DNA. So when these blunt ended or the sticky ended DNA fragments are formed, then these fragments can be visualized by using the horizontal gel electrophoresis system. In this procedure, a gel is cast in a horizontal orientation and submerged in running buffer. Here you can see in the tank, the running buffer is present, which is mostly the TAE buffer within the gel box. And there is an electric supply that moves the DNA on the basis of charge to mass ratio. Mostly 1% agarose gel is used, which can be made by using the agarose powder and TAE buffer. We also add ethidium bromide in this mixture to form the gel, and the function of the ethidium bromide is to bind the DNA molecule and illuminates it with the help of UV light and makes the DNA bending pattern visible. So ethidium bromide is important to visualize the DNA bands. So here in this picture, you can see how you can load the DNA into the gel. For loading of the DNA, we use another stain which is called the bromophenol blue. It is often used as a tracking dye. during the agarose or polyacrylamide gel electrophoresis. So here we are performing the horizontal or the agarose gel electrophoresis, and you will stain the DNA with the bromophenol blue. It has a slight negative charge and it migrates the same direction as the DNA. So you can track the DNA moving onto the gel. So this stain is important while your gel is under the electric supply. So you will load the DNA in these wells of the gel, and in one well you will add the marker DNA. The marker DNA is the DNA with the known size of the DNA fragment in the form of base pairs, and then you will load the DNA of your first strain in the other well, and the other strain you will compare with the first one you will add in the other gel. If you want to compare the multiple strains DNA, then you will load each strain in separate well. Then you will apply the electric supply, and then DNA will move from the other direction, and after some time you will stop the electric supply, and then this gel is placed into the gel documentation system. Here in this picture you can see the gel documentation system. The gel is placed here. You will close the doors and then turn on the electric UV supply, and after that here you can see a camera equipped with this system, and this picture can be visualized on the computer screen, and you can now compare the band pattern. Here in this image you can see the comparison of the restriction fragments between species and strains, which is the basis of the restriction fragment length polymorphism analysis after gel electrophoresis. Here you can see this is the marker DNA, and this is the shortest fragment, that is nearly 100 base pairs, and this is the largest fragment, that is nearly 1200 base pairs. And these are the fragments which are made after the addition of one or more restriction endonucleases in the template DNA mixture. And as a result, here you can see these strain 2 and 3 are identical with each other as well as with the strain 5, but they differs from the strain 1 and strain 4. Here you can see the multiple bands here, but these bands are absent in 2, 3 and 5. So if you see the well 6 and 7, the strains DNA which is loaded in the well 6 and 7 are similar. So these are the same species or the same strains, and they are different from the all others. So in this way you can compare the RFLP profile. Another genomic fingerprinting technique is the RAPD, that is random amplified polymorphic DNA. It produces DNA bands not by the digestion but by the amplification of DNA sequences. For this purpose, a DNA extract is incubated with a DNA polymerase, that is the polymerization enzyme, deoxynucleotide bases, and one or more short oligonucleotide sequences which act as primers for the polymerization of the DNA chains. So the steps involved in this procedure are enlisted here. First one is the DNA extraction. You can extract the DNA either by the manual method or by commercially available kit. Then you will perform PCR amplification using a thermal cycler, one or more short oligonucleotide bases, as well as some other components of the PCR mixture that will form the DNA. And then you will perform gel electrophoresis. Again, you will perform the agarose gel electrophoresis. We have studied this procedure in detail in the RFLP. And then after gel electrophoresis, you will compare the bands. So the difference between these two techniques is that in this technique, that is in RAPD, you will amplify the DNA by using the specific short oligonucleotide sequences that are the primers to amplify the specific sequence. So here, this is the picture of the thermal cycler, and you will put your sample along with the PCR mixture here in these wells in the form of tube, and at once you can put 96 samples here in this machine. The amplification is achieved by means of this machine as a result of polymerase chain reaction, in which the mixture is subjected to repeated cycles that could be up to 30 cycles or more, and these cycles are of different temperatures which are suitable for annealing, that is the attachment of the primer with the DNA and the polymerization and dissociation of the double-stranded DNA. So this thermal cycler provides different temperatures for different procedures which takes place inside a tube for the amplification of the template DNA by the addition of primers. So after PCR amplification, you will again perform the horizontal gel electrophoresis, and this is how you can again load the sample in these wells, and this sample is the amplified DNA, not the digested DNA by the use of endonucleases. And then you will visualize the gel by using the gel electrophoresis by using the gel documentation system. And then here you can see the RAPD profile. This picture shows the comparison of randomly amplified polymorphic DNA from species and strains after gel electrophoresis. And here you can see the names of different taxa. These are all the fungal taxa which are used in this experiment. The number and size of RAPD bands on electrophoresis gels can be compared between different species or strains, provided that all samples have been produced under identical conditions. So this is all about the RFLP and RAPD. Here in this slide, you can see some drawbacks of RFLP and RAPD. The results depend on the experimental conditions. If the experimental conditions varies, then your results may not be authentic. There are no universal databases. If you want to compare your sample, then you have to get the experimental organism as well as the control organism, as well as you have to compare with the other. So you have you need to get all the samples first. So there is no any universal database. As you can see the DNA sequence database, you are already familiar with the NCBI or the GenBank, where the DNA sequences are deposited and you can retrieve them very easily. But in this procedure, you have to get the sample first. So these samples are also unsuitable for comparisons of distantly related organisms. So you can only compare the closely related organisms, that is between the genera or between the species or strains. You cannot compare the distantly related organisms using these two techniques. Most of the data of this lecture is taken from the book Microbiology by Prescott and his co-authors. You may read the chapter 19 of this book. Some of the information is also taken from other parts of the book. You may get knowledge about it while reading the chapter 19, that is microbial evolution, taxonomy and diversity. Thank you.